Welcome back. It's been a few weeks since we've hosted our podcast, but we are excited to have Bimal Soni back on this week's edition of Modern Tech and Transformation, where we're going to discuss a lot of broad but in-depth and interesting topics around ERP systems and their importance of modernizing them in 2025 and beyond. So welcome back, Bimal.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be back.
So we are at the beginning of the year. What are some key trends shaping ERP modernization and systems, and how should businesses be preparing for this year and beyond?
This is a great question. So there are key trends that that are shaping up in the industry when customers are looking to modernize their ERP. Number one is a cloud-first approach, because that cloud-first ERP approach allows customers to adapt to the changing business conditions, such as geographic expansion or acquisitions or merger, and that provides them the technical capability to respond to those changes rather quickly. Number two is the best of breed solutions on cloud. Could be hybrid too. For example, if you talk about the customers who are using SAP, they would choose S4 HANA on cloud, on private cloud, or S4 HANA on a public cloud. But if the companies has a large professional workforce, in addition to the S4 HANA on cloud, they're also choosing SAP Concur, which is an expense management solutions. Similarly, SAP has many other solutions which are on the cloud, but they are not necessarily part of the core ERP, and they are applicable to certain industry depending on their business model. So more and more companies are going to the best of breed solutions on the cloud. The third trend that we notice is that companies are asking for the hyper automation. They are thinking about the automation from the start while they are building this, while they are delivering the ERP solutions. They are thinking about the productivity from the day one.
Is that a good way to think, or do you see limitations there?
I think it's a good way to think.
Okay.
The reason being, it allows their employee to really, as soon as the ERP gets rolled out, it allows their employee to really focus on the value-add task, like spending more time with their customer and really spending more time on their business. So that's definitely a very, very important aspect when the new solutions are getting rolled out. And last but not most important, I would say, is that the integration with or the thinking about how the artificial intelligence can be applied so that the real-time decisions can be made to achieve the business outcome or to run the business process efficiently. So these are some of the trends that we see customer is focusing on for their ERP modernization journey.
So are you seeing any overlap in automation and AI? So are some organizations wanting to do automation and calling it AI? Are you seeing any discrepancies there, or do you think it's one and the same? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question, and the automation process of automation has been around for a very long time, whereas the AI is a rather new. I would say that recently has become mainstream, and I think it's mainly because that the large language models have become technically feasible, and companies are able to adopt it as part of their technology stack. So when it comes to AI, AI is more about unstructured productivity, right? You have a set of data, like for example, you have an email and you want to really see the summary of a 600-word email, and your AI is applicable there. Whereas when we talk about the automation, is all about running the process efficiently. For example, you want to you want to give a notification to the purchase manager as soon as the important purchase order is in queue for the approval. So I think the AI and automation, they have their own unique spaces, but I think industry do change it they kind of use it one versus other, or sometimes combine them together as a one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just kind of touched on this real-time decision making. AI plays a role in that, automation. Any other strategies that organizations should be looking at in regards to their ERP system and getting some real-time insights?
Absolutely. I think the the advancements in technology as well as the applications has given businesses tremendous ability to make a real-time decision. So it's much easier now to integrate the data from the structured ERP tables and the unstructured data from social media feed, from IoT, and the operational efficiencies come when both of those data is merged and the data insights are presented to the business users or managers or leaders on a real-time basis. So the growing trend, and I think one of the key value proposition for business is to really combine the unstructured data and the structured data to enable real-time decision making.
Is that an easy task to do? And if someone were starting on that, what would you recommend?
I think there are more and more tools and applications and the partners who are actually delivering. All of them together are actually able to provide the solutions to the customers in the market. We have seen tremendous growth in tools that can actually do this real-time merging in a data lakes. We also seen partners who are actually focusing and specializing in those space, RTS being one of them. So I think it's getting improved as we mature.
Yeah, if you would have told me unstructured data about 8 years ago, that made people very nervous in
Absolutely.
IT, but we're at a different place now, so with new tools. And
Sure.
that was something I learned. I didn't know all the advancements. So you've mentioned SAP is the main ERP system, which makes sense because that's the foundation of RTS. And with all these cloud and AI technologies, SAP is now being seen not just as a back office solution, but as a strategic enabler of innovation and growth. Can we dive into that a little bit more? How you've seen the progression from this back office to a true growth enabler?
Absolutely. The main advantage of or main use case or advantage of the AI is being able to synthesize the large amount of data and make the data insight which is visible, that is for a user or for a leader. So the enterprise, when they run their business in an ERP, they pretty much have the data related to their business. And when artificial intelligence is applied on that data, a business can use that data to identify the predictive trends, right? They can also get many other insights from based on this data. And in seeing this trend and demand in the market, SAP has been heavily investing in business AI. SAP has released SAP Joule, and they are working on hundreds, if not thousands, of use cases on the business AI that is delivered on the ERP data, right? Other use cases could be again, using the non-ERP data, merging and using that in conjunction with the ERP structured data to identify the value that or the decision making parameters that business is looking for. So I think SAP is absolutely on the is embracing the business AI value, and is embracing on developing more and more use case for that.
So since moving from back office to whole operations, AI has really been the game changer with SAP.
Absolutely.
And this one's a tough one. So Klarna, they replaced their ERP systems, Salesforce being one of them, with AI because they have the data, structured and unstructured. They didn't want the large costs of an ERP system. Do you think others are going to take that trend? Or what would you advise someone asking you if they've read that article? Should they stick with a provider? Should they build it on their own? What limitations, what benefits do you see?
The ERP has come a long way, right? It has gone through an evolution of probably 3 to 4 decades. And the business are still going to do the run the process. Customers are going to place an order. Inventory will have to be allocated. It will have then to be shipped. The inventory will have to be stored. Those transactions do not change, right? historically, what has happened is that all the transactions within the ERP were event driven, meaning uh, an, uh, an action was taken based on one event. When the order was placed, a demand for the raw material was triggered. With the use of AI, now I think it is possible to do some predictive, execution rather than just keeping it event driven. So that is the change that I can see. However, I do not really see uh, that companies are going away from the ERP or ERP like systems. It might change how the transactions are executed, whether they are executed through a process automation, whether the decisions are made based on the data insight that is derived from the EI, and the next step of the transaction is triggered automatically versus user doing it. However, I do not really see enterprise software resource going away. It may morph into some other name, but the base underlying foundation will still remain the same.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that article was really interesting. So I just wanted to get your take on it since you live in ERP systems with most of your workday. But it was interesting. They put it all in a data lake and did their own thing. But I think that's a very unique use case. I don't think we're going to see that mainstream within the next 3 to 5 years at least.
And I think another thing to also keep in mind, just to add to that, right? It's also depends on the size of the organization. Company that is very small versus company that is operating globally, and they have to run these business processes, and then they need a very tight transactional integrity. And also even events must be tightly done when the companies are planning supply chain globally. However, I am absolutely convinced that this AI is going to add a lot of values in those processes, and they are going to make those processes a lot more efficient. However, the underlying transaction processing will still remain the same.
Good insights. Yeah. I just wanted to pick your brain on that one. So last but not least, I know we've talked about this in 2024, but now we're in 2025. What advice would you give a company on a legacy ERP system?
So the company will need to change their ERP. If customer if you look at the current modern ERPs or current ERPs that are currently used, they are all developed 3 to 4 decades ago, and those technologies have limitations. And if company continue to invest building innovations on technology, not only they hit the roadblocks, but they also increase the technical debt, meaning the cost of running the technology is much higher, maintaining the cost is much higher. So I think and many companies are still struggling in terms of why should I upgrade my ERP because my users are not complaining, my business is running. So I think they need to look at the ERP transformation project from 2 different angles. Number one, the ERP modernization business case can be built um, using the business transformation that is happening in their industry, in their market, and maybe for the customer themselves. The second aspect would be see whether there is a technical limitation of the current environment is stopping business from growing and scaling. And so there are 2 use cases for ERP modernization. I think companies should look at the ERP modernization business case from both this aspect. And then they need to start really thinking about whether they want to make a decision to invest into the ERP modernization right away or 12 months down the line. But it is advisable that they start the journey of exploring the options available in the market. What are the approaches that they can take? What are the how they can break down the journey into a smaller step and then achieve the final objective. So I think it is important that the companies which are running the traditional ERP, they are aware about all of these aspects, and they are continuing to make some progress towards starting their ERP modernization journey.
Well, as always, love chatting with you and hearing your insights. Thank you for being with us today. And for those of you that are using SAP as your ERP system or are looking into using it, we will be at the SAP Insider Conference in Las Vegas. So please be sure to check us out and stop by our booth. Thank you, Bimal.
Thank you, Carla.